The air on the alien world was thick and warm. Luke wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stepped off the shuttle. He was part of a human peace delegation sent to the planet Zarin. The goal was simple: learn about their people, share culture, and avoid any conflict. But nothing about Zarin felt simple. Huge towers of dark stone reached into the sky, and warrior statues lined every road. The alien people, called Zerari, were tall, strong, and covered in armor-like skin. They walked with pride and always carried their weapons. They lived by strength, and their leader, a warrior princess named Zelari, is known for being undefeated. Luke was a soldier, trained in survival, defense, and leadership. But here he was told to stay peaceful, to just watch and listen. Still, something about this place made him feel like things could go wrong quickly. Their arrival was welcomed with music, strange alien horns, and a public gathering in the city square. Crowds filled the stone seats. It was some kind of festival. The human team stood on a stage next to the royal seats. Zelari sat in the center, her eyes sharp and serious, her long silver hair tied in a braid. Beside her stood guards and generals and Anne. Old Alien stepped forward, raising a staff. As tradition demands, he shouted, "Today we show strength. Every visiting leader must face the trial beast, as friends of our people." Luke frowned. "Trial beasts? Wait, what?" His commander whispered fast, "Just stay calm." It might be symbolic, but it wasn't. A large gate opened and a massive beast walked into the arena. It looked like a mix between a lion and a lizard, with armored scales and glowing yellow eyes. It roared, shaking the ground. The crowd cheered. "This is not a test of death," the old alien said. "Only strength. Survive, and you will be honored." Luke looked around. His team was frozen. They didn't know who should step forward. Before anyone else could move, Luke stepped down into the ring. He didn't have armor, just a simple jumpsuit and a small utility knife. The beast charged, and Luke rolled to the side, barely avoiding. The sharp claws. He remembered his training. Speed, not force. He ran toward a tall pillar and climbed it quickly. Beast followed, clawing at the stone. Luke used wires from his belt and swung across to another platform. The crowd began to cheer louder, surprised by his moves. No one had ever used the arena's design this way. Luke grabbed a piece of broken metal lying near the edge and sharpened it quickly on the stone. When the beast charged again, he leaped forward and drove the metal into the creature's leg. It roared in pain but didn't fall. Instead of trying to kill it, Luke ran behind it and used his wire to trap its back legs. The beast stumbled and crashed into the pillar. The arena went silent. The old alien raised his staff. The human has survived. The crowd erupted in cheers. Luke stood in the center, breathing hard. His arm was bruised, his side hurt, but he was alive. He bowed slightly, trying to show respect. On the royal platform, Princess Zelari stood slowly. She stared down at him, her face unreadable. She didn't cheer like the others. She watched after the event. The human delegation was invited to a feast. Alien food covered long stone tables. Strange fruits, meats, and glowing drinks were offered. Music played. Warriors laughed, but all Luke could think about was the beast's roar still echoing in his ears. Suddenly, the music stopped. Exla entered the hall, walking straight toward him. Everyone stepped aside. Her tall figure moved with calm power. She wore a different outfit now, still armored, but elegant. The hall grew quiet. She stood in front of Luke and said, in clear English, "You are strong." Luke nodded politely. "I only did what I had to do." She didn't blink. "You faced our trial with no weapon. No fear, no request to be spared. I have made my decision." Luke tilted his head, confused. "What decision?" Zelari raised her voice. "I demand the human become my mate." Gasps echoed through the hall. Luke blinked. "Wait, what?" His team stood up in shock. The translator double-checked the words and gave the same result. She had said it clearly. "It is our way," Zelari said. I choose by strength. I choose you. Luke didn't know what to say. I just met her. This was supposed to be a diplomatic visit, not a wedding. I'm honored, he said slowly. But this is sudden. Zalari didn't move. You have 1 day. After that, I will expect your answer. With that, she turned and left the hall. Luke stood in silence, surrounded by stunned humans and curious aliens. He had come to this world, expecting to watch and learn. Instead, he had become the center of it all. And now the strongest woman on the planet wanted him as her mate. Luke sat on the edge of the small stone bench inside the guest quarters. The walls around him were carved with alien symbols, glowing softly. The air was quiet, but his mind was full of noise. What had just happened? One moment he was trying to survive a beast, and the next, a warrior princess had asked him to be her mate. No, not ask demanded. His commander, Alina, stood nearby, pacing back and forth. This is a political mess, she said. A princess asking a human soldier to marry her? That wasn't in the plan. Luke looked up. She didn't exactly ask. It felt like a royal command. It's how they do things, another team member said, checking a small translator screen. In their culture, the strongest pick their mates after the trial. It's a tradition. Refusing might be seen as an insult. Luke sighed. So what should I do? Say yes, just to be polite. No, Elena said firmly. We still have rules. You're not a prize, but you do need to think carefully. If you say no too harshly, it could ruin all talks between our worlds. Right. Luke leaned back and closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about Zalari's face. There had been no smile. Remember? Sweet words. It's just truth and strength. She had chosen him the same way she might choose a sword or a shield, something useful in battle. He didn't know whether to be honored or alarmed. The next morning, a messenger arrived. He was a short alien with round eyes and a careful tone. The princess invites the human warrior to walk with her, he said. Alina gave Luke a look. Go, but be careful. Luke followed the messenger through winding paths, past training fields where warriors practice with sharp blades and strange weapons. They passed a garden full of glowing blue plants and tall trees with glassy leaves. Finally, they reached a quiet terrace with a view of the mountains. Zalari stood there alone, her arms crossed, her silver hair shining in the sun. You came, she said without turning. You asked, Luke replied. She looked over her shoulder. No fear? Some, he admitted, but I've faced worse. She turned fully, studying him again. Why do humans act so strange? You fear and still step forward. You bleed but still stand. Luke smiled a little. We're full of surprises. She walked closer. You showed strength. Not just in battle, but in restraint. You could have killed the beast. You didn't. It wasn't about winning, Luke said. It was about surviving. Maybe even understanding the creature. Zalari nodded slowly. That is why I chose you. They sat on the edge of the terrace. Zalari removed her arm guards and set them beside her. For the first time, she seemed relaxed. Where I come from, Luke said softly, marriage isn't done like this. We get to know each other. We share things. We talk a lot. Talking makes you strong. Sometimes, yes. Zalari looked at the sky. My people choose based on power. A mate must protect the family, lead the children, defend the home. My father chose my mother after she broke his spear in a duel. Luke raised his eyebrows. Romantic. It was, she said, without sarcasm. But I see now. Humans are different. You have strength, but not only in your body. Talked for a while about battles, about their homes, and about what it meant to lead others. Luke learned that Zalari wasn't just a warrior. She was tired of being seen only as a fighter. She wanted peace, too. She wanted a future beyond war. When the sun began to set, she stood. You still have time to decide, but know this. I did not choose you just because of strength. I saw something rare. A heart that does not rush to destroy. You sound like someone who wants more than tradition. I want someone who understands, she said, and who will not break when the galaxy gets cold. She left him there. Alone with his thoughts, back at the guest quarters, Alina waited. How did it go? Luke rubbed the back of his neck. I think she's more human than we expected. Are you going to say yes? I don't know yet, he said honestly. But I know she didn't pick me to show off. She picked me because something inside her is looking for more. That night, Luke walked alone through the quiet garden behind the palace. He heard laughter and the distant Salian voices celebrating. The festival's second night. Firelights floated in the air. His eyes scanned the sky above. Stars blinked. Silent witnesses to a choice he never thought he'd have to make. He remembered Earth. Remembered his small apartment. His mom's calls. His old unit. Everything felt far now. A soft voice spoke behind him. You are not sleeping? It was Zelari again, walking slowly. This time, she wore a light robe, still elegant, but without armor. I had too much to think about, Luke replied. They sat on a stone bench beneath a glowing tree. Your people see us as wild, Zelari said. But we watch the stars too. We dream too. And maybe we're not so different, Luke said. Do you dream of staying here? She asked. He looked at her. Her eyes were no longer hard. They were full of something else, something deeper. I don't know, he said. But I think I want to learn more about you, not just as a princess, but as a person. She nodded. That is all I ask. The stars above glowed brighter, and for the first time it felt like their two worlds might not be so far apart. The next morning came with red skies and soft winds blowing over the palace. Luke stood on the wide balcony outside his room, watching the alien world come alive. Warriors marched in formation below, training in perfect rhythm. The smell of fire herbs drifted through the air. He had never felt so far from Earth, yet so strangely connected to this place. A message arrived. Zelari had called for a meeting. Between the human delegation and the royal court, the humans walked through tall stone halls, guided by armored guards. The court chamber was wide and lit with glowing crystals. The far end, Zelari sat on a raised seat. Beside her stood several alien leaders and generals, all staring at the humans with cold eyes. A tall general stepped forward. His name was Vaker, and his voice was sharp. We respect the human warrior for surviving the trial, but many among us question his place beside our princess. Alina, the human commander, stood calmly. Our mission is peaceful, but this matter is personal between your princess and our soldier. Vaker narrowed his eyes. Our people don't see it that way. If your human accepts her offer, he becomes part of our future, our bloodline. We won't let that happen without another test. Luke stepped forward. What kind of test? Vaker looked at him directly. A duel. Not to the death, but to prove you are worthy to stand by her side. Zelari spoke for the first time. I did not ask for this, Vaker replied. You are our leader. We protect your honor. She stayed quiet, then turned to Luke. You do not have to accept this. But Luke could see the tension around the room. If he refused, it would bring shame to her and maybe end the talks between their worlds. He nodded once. I'll do it. The room broke into quiet murmurs. Zelari looked at him, her face unreadable. Then prepare. The duel will take place. At sunset, the hours passed quickly. Luke changed into armor provided by the Zerari. It was lighter than he expected, built for speed and movement, not brute force. He trained in a quiet yard, testing the feel of their swords and shields. They were different from Earth's weapons, but he adapted fast. Exler came to see him before the match. Vaker is strong, she warned. He has trained since he could walk. He wanted to be my mate once. You must be careful. Luke gave a small smile. Thanks for the encouragement. She stepped closer. This fight is not just for me, it's for both of us. If you lose, they will say humans are weak. Then I won't lose, he said quietly. She reached out and touched his shoulder lightly. Whatever happens, know that I already chose you. When sunset came, the duel arena filled with aliens. Warriors, elders, and even younglings came. To watch, firelights floated above, casting a golden glow over the ring. Vaker stood tall, his armor dark red, his blade sharp and humming. Luke entered calmly. He had trained for years. He knew how to control his breath, his heart, his fear, but still, this was different. This was not just a fight, it was a moment that could decide the future. The old speaker raised his hand. Begin. Vaker rushed forward first. His strikes were fast, powerful, and well-practiced. Luke blocked the first hit, dodged the second, and rolled away from the third. He didn't try to match Vakor's force. Instead, he waited, learning his style, his rhythm. The crowd roared as metal clashed. Each strike shook the ground, but Luke held his ground. He used the enemy's strength against him, stepping aside at the right moments, striking when openings appeared. Vako growled, "You dodge like a thief." Luke didn't answer, stayed focused. Finally, Vaker swung wide, aiming for Luke's head. Luke ducked, slid forward, and knocked the blade from Vakor's hand. The sword flew across the arena. Gasps echoed from the crowd. Luke stepped back, pointing his blade at Vaker, but did not strike. Vaker picked up his sword slowly and looked at him. "Why did you stop?" "'Cause I don't need to win by breaking you," Luke said. "I just need to show I can stand." The old speaker stepped forward. "Enough. The match is done. The human is worthy." Cheers erupted. Warriors raised their fists. Even the elders nodded with respect. Exla stepped into the arena. She walked. Lucan stood before him, proud and tall. "You did not fight for power. You fought with control." He looked at her. "I fought for you." Later that night, the celebration began. Bright lights filled the sky. Music echoed through the valley. Food and stories were shared around fires. Luke sat with Zelari at the center of the main circle. Laughter surrounded them. Alien warriors offered him gifts: decorated blades, war paint, a silver medal of honor. Children ran past him, playing and laughing. For the first time, he felt accepted. Exler I leaned toward him. "They see you differently now. Do you?" She smiled softly. "Saw you before they did." He turned to her. "What happens next?" She looked at the stars. "Next, we begin the joining rites. It will not be easy. Not all will support us. But if you're still willing, we face it together." He nodded. "I didn't come here expecting this, but I'm not walking away now." For the first time since landing on Xeron, Luke didn't feel like a visitor. He felt like he belonged. The palace buzzed with preparation the next morning. Banners were raised across the high towers. Workers moved quickly, setting up colorful lights and long tables. Everywhere Luke walked, alien eyes followed him. Some looked at him with respect, others with curiosity or quiet disapproval. The joining rites were not a simple celebration. They were a symbol, a promise between two lives, two clans, and now two worlds. For the Zerari, it meant merging strength and destiny. For humans, it was something deeper, a bond built on love, trust, understanding. Luke didn't fully know what to expect, but he was ready. In his chamber, a young alien named Milok arrived with a folded robe. "This is the robe of joining," he said. "It is made from fire weave, strong, but light. Only those accepted by the royal bloodline wear it." Luke took the robe, its texture strange but soft. He looked at the mirror. For a moment, he barely recognized himself, not a soldier, not a visitor, something else. Milok smiled. "You look like one of us." "I'm still human," Luke replied. "Yes," Milok nodded. "But now, you are something more." In another part of the palace, Zalari stood in a quiet room, surrounded by her closest guards. Her ceremonial armor was lighter than usual, trimmed with silver lines. Her long braid had golden rings woven into it. She looked calm, but her heart felt heavier than any battle. One of her guards, an older woman named Soraya, stepped forward. "You are strong, my princess. But today, you must also be open." Zelari turned to her. "What if the elders speak against it during the rite?" "Then you speak louder," Soraya said. "This is your path, not theirs." Zelari nodded. "Then let them try." As sunset approached, The joining ground filled with people. It was a large open space on a raised platform, surrounded by high walls carved with ancient battles. Fires burned in tall glass bowls. The elders sat in a half-circle, watching silently. Luke stood at the center, dressed in the robe Malak gave him. Beside him, Elena and the human team stood proudly. Behind him, a crowd of aliens waited, whispering among themselves. Then the music began, deep drums and long, low horns. Zelari entered from the north gate, walking slowly, each step steady and full of power. When she reached Luke, she stopped and looked into his eyes. The speaker of the rites, a tall elder with golden eyes, stepped forward. "Today," he said, "two spirits choose to walk one path. The warrior princess, Zelari. The human soldier. Luke, strength meets heart. Power meets patience." He looked at Luke. "Do you come here by your own will?" "Yes," Luke answered. Then he looked at Zelari. "Do you choose this man with your spirit and your strength?" "I do," she said clearly. The elder held out a glowing thread made from crystal threads. "Then bind your hands." Zelari and Luke each took one end and wrapped it around their hands. The crystal warmed, glowing brighter. The crowd watched in silence, but just as the final words were about to be spoken, a voice rose from the back. "I challenge this, right?" The crowd turned. Baker stepped forward, holding a warrior's blade in one hand. His voice was firm. "I do not challenge the warrior. I challenge the path. This joining brings weakness to our blood. Humans are outsiders." Zelari stepped forward. "You had your chance, Baker. You lost." "I lost a duel, not my voice," he said. "I speak for many. This union will change our people. Not all are ready." The elder looked at Vaker. "The right to speak is yours, but the right to decide is not. The princess has chosen, and the warrior has earned his place." Some in the crowd murmured in agreement. Others stayed silent. Exla turned to Luke. "You still wish to continue?" "Yes," Luke said. "No fear." The elder raised his staff. "Then let the rite be completed." He struck the ground 3 times. The firelight flared. The crystal thread melted into their skin, marking their hands with matching symbols. It did not hurt. Instead, it felt warm, like a memory made solid. Cheers rose. Music returned. The joining was done. The celebration that followed lasted for hours. Food was served on large trays. Drinks were poured into silver cups. Dancers moved through the firelight. Warriors sang battle songs, mixing human and alien languages. Luke and Zelari sat side by side at the high table. She leaned close and whispered, "You were calm even when Vaker tried to stop it." "I knew you wouldn't let him win," Luke replied with a small smile. She looked at him. "You were not chosen because you were human. You were chosen because you stood your ground, not with fists, but with truth." Milok ran up with a small package. "For you, Lord Luke," he said happily. Luke opened it and found a carved stone blade. It's not meant for battle, but for memory. It had symbols of both human Earth and Zariah clans. A gift of unity. He held it up. "Thank you." Across the crowd, some alien children ran by, waving cloth flags with both worlds' colors on them. Zelari watched them and whispered, "This is what I wanted. Peace." Luke asked. "Hope," she said. Later that night, after the fires died down and most guests returned to their homes, Luke and Zelari walked alone through the garden. Soft lights blinked above. Small creatures hummed gently. "You're quiet," Zelari said. "Just thinking," Luke answered. "About Earth. A little, but mostly about what comes next." She took his hand, their marked skin touching. "We face it together. One world may not understand us, but maybe 2 can." Nodded, gently squeezing her hand. For now, their path was not easy, but it was real. And together, they were strong. Days passed after the joining ceremony, but the memory stayed fresh in everyone's mind. The news of a human warrior joining with the warrior princess of Ziron spread across the planet and beyond. Messages came from nearby systems. Some praised it as a symbol of peace. Others questioned it. Not everyone was happy. Inside the palace, things remained calm on the surface. But Luke and Zellar both noticed the change in how others looked at them. Some warriors saluted Luke with respect. Others avoided him. Whispers floated through the halls. One evening, Zellari sat in the council chamber with her top advisors. Luke stood beside her, wearing a simple robe with the symbol of their union. A map glowed on the table, showing nearby space routes. 3. Outer colonies have refused to recognize the joining, said General Solon. They say it weakens our traditions. And one fleet captain is delaying shipments, added another. They want your voice, princess. They want to hear from you directly. Zellari leaned forward. Then they will hear me. Prepare a message to be sent by the stars. Tell them this union was my choice, and a sign of strength, not weakness. Stayed quiet, listening. After the meeting, Zellari turned to him. This was expected, she said. Yeah, Luke replied. But it still feels heavy. She nodded. Leadership always feels heavy. As they walked through the outer halls, they passed training grounds. A group of young warriors were practicing. One of them, a boy no older than 15, stepped forward and bowed to them. Princess, he said shyly, can I ask the human something? Zellari smiled. You may. The boy looked up at Luke. How did you win the trial beast fight? Luke knelt to meet his eye level. Didn't try. To beat it with more power. I tried to understand how it moved, and used that to find a way to stop it. The boy's eyes widened. You used your mind? It's always Luke said. Brains and heart, not just strength. The boy nodded and ran back to his group, excited lecturing. They were already changing and whispered they're already changing. That night, while most of the palace rested, a quiet alarm rang through the halls. Luke woke up to the sound of boots rushing past his door. He jumped to his feet, grabbing a small blade from the wall. Zellari was already up, her armor half worn. There's trouble at the south gate, she said. Come with me. They rushed through the stone corridors until they reached the control room. A guard turned to them. An unknown ship landed just outside the city. No response. No ID. Zellari stared at the screen. Get the watchers in the sky ready. I want to know if this is a mistake or a threat. Luke narrowed his eyes. Timing isn't random. Outside the city, the alien night was filled with blue clouds and slow winds. From the top of the tower, they saw the ships, small, dark, and silent. No flags, no lights. Just a shadow, sitting near the edge of the forest. Whoever. They are, Luke said. They're not here to talk. Suddenly, the ship's side opened. 5 figures stepped out, wearing dark armor. They moved fast and quiet, not carrying banners of peace. Exalera grabbed her staff. Ready the defense team. Before the guards could respond, a voice crackled. Through the tower speaker, this is Captain Trez of the Free War clans. We don't accept this union. We don't follow weak rulers. Zellari stepped forward, pressing the button. Then you've made a mistake coming here. No, Trez replied. We've come to take back our future. Then the line went silent. The clash happened fast. Trez and his soldiers rushed the gates, trying to break through with energy weapons. Palace guards responded with blades and shields. Energy sparks flew through the air. The night filled with shouts and steel. Luke fought beside Zellari, moving with her like they had trained for years. Blocked one attacker with his shield while she knocked another down with her staff. They fought back to back, watching each other's moves. One of the rebels lunged at Zellari. Luke stepped in, grabbed the rebel's arm and twisted it, dropping the weapon. Another tried to hit him from behind, but Zellari kicked the attacker away just in time. You okay? She asked, panting. Still standing? He said. The fight lasted 10 minutes, but felt like an hour. In the end, the rebels were caught and tied. Captain Trez knelt in front of the throne, bruised and breathing hard. Why? Zellari asked. Why do this? Trez spit to the side. Because we don't want humans in our blood. You ruined the line. Luke stepped forward. Maybe the line needed to change. Trez glared at him, but said nothing. Xelar. I turned to her guards. Lock him in the deep cells. And let all clans know anyone who brings war will face justice. Next morning, peace returned. The sun rose over a quiet city. The people woke to the news of the attack, but also of the princess's defense, and her human mate standing strong beside her. Children marched through the city holding drawings of Zelari and Luke with glowing swords. Traders returned to the markets, and slowly, even the doubtful ones began to soften. In the garden, Zelari and Luke walked slowly. The flowers were blooming with colors from both their worlds. Planted during the early days of the Union, you could have been hurt, Zelari said. You, too, Luke replied. She stopped walking and turned to him. You didn't have to fight. You're not bound by our rules. But I'm bound to you, he said quietly. And I chose this path, just like you did, she smiled. Then maybe they'll understand one day. Maybe, he said. But if they don't, we'll keep walking anyway.
Ouch.
She reached for his hand. Their bond marks glowed faintly in the sunlight. Together, they stood in silence, knowing the future would still bring tests, but together, they would face them all. A full cycle passed since the attack by the rebel captain. The city had returned to peace, but the memory of that night had not faded. The news of the failed attack, and of Luke and Zelari defending the palace together, had spread far. Across star systems, many began to see the joining not as weakness, but as strength built from two different worlds. Still, tension remained in some corners. Small groups on the edge of the Empire questioned the new bond. Others quietly watched, waiting for signs of failure. The galaxy had seen unions before, but none like this. Inside the palace, preparations were underway for something new, a shared council between humans and Zerari. The goal was to plan joint missions, explore together, and keep the peace alive. It had never been done before. Luke sat at the round meeting table with Zelari beside him. Her posture was strong, but her voice was calm as she addressed the visitors, both alien and human. This bond, she said, is not the end of tradition. It is the start of something better. Human ambassador nodded. We believe in this alliance. Earth will support your leadership. One of the older alien generals who had once doubted Luke spoke next. We have seen your heart in battle. Many of us were wrong. Perhaps there is more to strength than armor. Luke didn't smile. He only nodded. I didn't come to lead. I came to walk beside her, but if my voice can help, I'll use it. After the meeting ended, the new council had formed. Small steps, but important ones. That night, under a sky full of stars, Zelari and Luke walked along the river path just outside the city. Lanterns floated on the water, placed there by citizens to show hope for a peaceful future. They say we made history, Luke said quietly. Xela or I looked at the glowing water. We didn't try to. We just followed truth. Do you think it'll last? She paused. Some will resist, some will change. But time will decide. Not fear, not anger. Luke stopped walking and faced her. I never expected this when I came here. I thought I'd shake hands, then go home. And now, she asked. Now home is wherever you are. Her expression softened. No longer just a warrior, she looked at him with quiet warmth. There's something I want to show you, she said. They followed the river path deeper into the hills, where stone steps led to an ancient tower. The structure was old, covered in moss and star carvings. This was my mother's place, Zelari said. She would come here when things were too heavy. Luke ran a hand over the stone. Feels peaceful, it is. She walked to a small circle at the top. She believed the stars above had answers, that the universe listens, even when it says nothing. They sat together, watching the stars blink across the black sky. Silence filled the space, but it was not empty. It was calm. Then slowly Zelari reached into her pocket and pulled out a small metal band. It was thin, simple, but etched with symbols from both human and Zerari worlds. This is not a weapon, she said. Not a royal mark. It is a promise. She handed it to Luke. He turned it in his fingers, then smiled and reached into his pouch. Funny, he said. I had something too. He pulled out a small braided thread, made from fabric of his old Earth uniform, and a piece of her trial beast's sash. "Mine's not as shiny," he said, "but it carries history." They exchanged their gifts quietly in that quiet tower. They placed the items on each other's hands not as rulers, not as warriors, but as people choosing to stand together. The next day, a new alert came, not of an attack, but a request. For help. A mining station on a nearby moon had suffered a power failure, and rescue was needed. Both human and Zerari ships were asked to respond. XELARI and Luke joined the mission. Together, they boarded a small craft with mixed crew from both sides. They worked in harmony, fixing the damaged systems and saving the trapped workers. On their return, one of the rescued engineers, a young woman from a desert world, looked at them and said, "I didn't believe in your bond until today." They said nothing. They didn't need to. Their actions spoke louder than any message. A week later, back in the capital, the grand hall was filled again. It's time not for warnings or fights, but for celebration. Young warriors, diplomats, scholars, and families. Gathered children wore colors of both planets. A giant banner hung high, showing the joined emblems of Earth and Ixur. The elder speaker stepped onto the stage and said, "We have seen strength, not just in arms, but in hearts." His hand towards Zalari and Luke, to who once walked alone, now walked together, not by force, not by law, but by choice. Cheers echoed through the stone walls. XELARI stood and addressed the hall. "This is not the end of the journey. It is the first step. We may stumble, we may disagree, but we will walk forward." Luke stood beside her. "We will protect this bond, not for ourselves, but for those who come after." Their hands joined, the marks of the joining still glowing faintly, and as the music rose, as people danced and sang, the galaxy watched, not with fear, not with doubt, but with curiosity, and maybe, with hope in the eyes of many. A new chapter had begun, and at the center of it stood a human and a warrior princess, stronger together than either had been alone.